All right. Hello. If you can see me, hear me. First, I gotta get it up, I guess. First, get the comments up. Hold on. Let's see. Give me a minute to tweet all this stuff out, then I'll be right with you to show you some scores from today, talk about the Big 12 championship, some other March Madness information, just some games that have happened so far this weekend, and all that. All right. Let's get this thing going. No, I don't want that. That is not what I want. All right, hold on. All right. And there you go. Here we go. On to the live stream. Let me get the comments pulled up and then we will get off and go. All right. There we go. Let's see. All right. How you doing? All one people of you who are here. I hope you're having a good day. The one comment says Texas sucks. Well, they just won the Big 12 championship. Meanwhile, OU got knocked out in the first round, I think. So, lovely. But yeah, what a game. I mean, that Texas in the first half they looked really good, really strong start to the game, especially near the end of the half when they were able to pull out to a double-digit lead. Pull out to a 13-point lead until I think Oklahoma State hit a 3 at the end of the half. But Texas overall looked really good the whole first half. Both ends of the court, they were able to score. They were able to get in the paint. I mean, I don't know how many dunks both teams had in the first half, but there was a lot, it seemed like. I mean, easy points. They were hitting shots from everywhere. And then on the defensive end, they were forcing turnovers, not letting Cade Cunningham score. And eventually, were able to hold on to that double-digit lead for half. But the second half, Texas has struggled in the second half in the past. And, we saw it a little bit early. Oklahoma State was able to close in. Texas pulled away. Oklahoma State closed in. Texas pulled away. And so it was really good to see them hold off at the end. Cade Cunningham hit some incredible shots there at the end to really keep it close. But it just wasn't enough. Texas, they kept on making their free throws, which has been a problem for them all year. So really good to see them hit free throws late to kind of lock it up. Oklahoma State, they're a really good team. I think they can make a deep run for sure. Yeah, I mean, they're a really good team. There's no question about it. I think they've been overlooked for quite a while. They haven't been looked at until the past couple of weeks when they started winning more, but early on, you could tell that they were really good, competing with good teams. Texas, Kansas, they swept Texas Tech. I thought that was impressive. And then going on and beating some teams like Texas, Kansas, Baylor, and beating West Virginia a couple times. So I think they've been overlooked all season. It's good to see them finally get some recognition. Them as a team, I think they're an amazing team. Cade Cunningham, obviously, he's going to be a top draft pick, but I think Oklahoma State as a team overall has been really, really good all season. And it's good to see them finally get some recognition. But obviously, I'm a Texas fan, so I'm extremely happy to see us finally win a Big 12 championship. Our first appearance since 2011. And obviously, these opportunities don't happen that often when you only make it once every 10 years. And so to take advantage of it like that and to win the Big 12 tournament is a big deal, especially with how good the conference has been this year. 7 teams in the top 25, all making the tournament, are going to be higher seeds. Oklahoma's still going to be a higher seed technically, but they might be an 8, they might be a 7, so they're going to have a tough first round matchup. But everyone else, Oklahoma's still a really good team. It's still a really good conference. I mean, Baylor's going to be a 1 seed. Oklahoma and Texas, they'll both be 2 or 3 seeds. Kansas will be a 3. Texas Tech, I think they were saying 5 last time I checked, but West Virginia is going to be a 4, probably. So it's going to be a really good tournament for the Big 12. But hello, Meme Car, how you doing? I think there was an Xfinity race today. I saw Austin Cindric won that. I didn't watch the Xfinity race. I was a little occupied by this game here. If you did miss it, it was a really, really good game. I got the ACC. I keep on looking over here if you guys are wondering, because the ACC championship's on. So I'm watching that, talking to you, looking at my screen, looking for things to talk about. But yeah, I mean, what have you guys? All 2 of you who are currently in the chat. Oh my, he just bulldozed that guy. Obviously it's great to have March Madness this year, but curious to other people's thoughts on the conference tournament so far. Not just the Big 12, but I think Georgetown won the Big East. That took a spot away. They weren't going to make it if they didn't win the conference. So that was a big win for them. Who else? I'm trying to think. Big Ten's got their final tomorrow. SEC's final tomorrow. Just curious to what you guys' thoughts are on the conference tournaments are, if you have any. And if not, all good. We'll continue on with this. But let's see here. But yeah. I mean, Texas led the majority of the game, I want to say. I mean, as I said, they jumped out to that first half lead, but it was close at the beginning of the first half, but they finally pulled away in the second. Last 5 to 10 minutes of that first half, it's kind of like what they did against Tech, where it was kind of neck and neck, and even Tech led a little bit in that first game, but Texas was able to go on a big run there at the end of the half to really just kind of, get the lead there against Tech at least. And today it was to pull away, but the second half, it was back and forth. Texas will pull away to an 8 to 10 point lead. Oklahoma State will pull in within 3 or 4, but it was a really good game. The first half, as I said, Texas played really well. I thought both teams played pretty decent, pretty good in the second half. I think they had some, defensively they had some issues. I think both teams just, allowing some wide open threes, turnovers on the offense, which led to points on the other end. So, just small things, they can be small, but things that you can fix. It's not like a major team identity problem. But, yeah, I think both these teams could make big, deep tournament runs. I think they're both good enough to do it. I think they're both capable of doing it. It doesn't matter where they get put in the bracket. They're both going to be a 2 or 3 seed, as I said earlier. I think they both got a high possibility of making a deep run, where depending on where they are. If they got to play in the same bracket as Gonzaga, it's going to be tough. But, I think Gonzaga looks invincible right now. But I think both these teams would be one of the teams to have a shot against them. I think any one of the Big 12 teams that's in the tournament's got a shot against them. But, yeah, Big 12's looked great. And for Texas to win the conference tournament, again, in the best conference, I think it's a big deal. Obviously, they didn't get to play Kansas, but, if they had been swept by Kansas in the regular season, I wouldn't say concerned, but I think it would have been a little bit like, all right, well, how legit is this? But I think, people are going to call it a Mickey Mouse ring and stuff. But, to see that Texas swept Kansas in the regular season and to come up with this after beating Texas Tech, who swept them in the regular season, is big for them. Hello, Robert. How you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Texas came up huge on the glass. Offensive rebounds and second chances was huge. Yeah, Jericho Sims, he went off. I mean, he had to have had 15, 20 even, I don't know. But he had a ton of rebounds. It seemed like every time we missed on the offensive end, he was getting the rebound on under the basket. I mean, it seemed like everything fell into his hands. Where is he? Jericho Sims, 14 rebounds. Yeah, I mean, he was great all day. Scoring, rebounding. I mean, he did everything today. Swatting shots. He was everywhere today. Speaking of guys that are everywhere, Brock Cunningham. I mean, that guy can play. I mean, he doesn't put up 20 points a game. He doesn't grab 20 rebounds a game or anything like that. He doesn't make a bunch of threes, but you always see him on the ground. You see him, he had a bruised face before the game. And then obviously Matt Coleman, what's it called? How do I get this? I don't want the videos. They're going to shut down this live stream when they see the videos. But Matt Coleman, he was jumping over the scorer's table at one point in this game. He dropped 30, his career high. He's a senior. I think that's an advantage for Texas too, is that they're an older team. You look at some of these teams in the tournament, they got all these young players. They got these draft prospects. We've seen that in the past with Texas. They've had young stars who are going to be NBA players, but they don't do much in college, or at least their team doesn't do much in college because they're not a team. And that's something that's been fun about Texas this year, is that they've actually played like a team, and they've been able to operate as a team because they've been there. They've played with each other before. And this year they've just clicked really well, and I think Shaka Smart's a major part of that. 1 year ago, his job was on the line. They didn't know if they were going to make the tournament or not going into this week. And this year they win the Big 12, and they might be a 2 or 3 seed. So, yeah. Hello, CK1998. How are you doing? To the two of you who are here watching this live stream, hope you both are having a good day. Just hope you're having a good day. But that's I'm probably missing something on the game. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. I mean, Shaka Smart, the coach, as I said, his job was on the line last year. Even at times this year, people were saying he needed to be fired. But if you look at our losses, I mean, yeah, we have 7 losses. We were 11-6 in conference, but our conference was so good this year that you're not going to win every game. You're not going to beat every team. It's a tough conference. I mean, look at who we lost to. We lost twice to Texas Tech. That's a really good team that can make a run. Baylor, they're one of the best teams in the country. They're going to be a 1 seed. West Virginia, that's a really good team. Oklahoma State, another really good team. And then even our non-conference loss, Villanova, they slumped a little bit at the end of the season, but that was early on, and they're still a pretty good team, I think. So all Texas's losses have still been to good teams. It's not like they were losing to Kansas State like Oklahoma did, or losing to a team that was bad that they shouldn't have lost to. They lost games that they should have won, but they're still 2 good teams. But I think if they can pick up their second half play, they've been awful in the second half for some reason. I really have no idea why, but their second half play is just so much worse than their first half. If they can pick it up in the second half, if they can put it together, complete games, I think they'll be fine. But I'm curious to see who we get in the first round. First off, hello, David. How you doing? Hope you're having a good day. What was I saying? Yeah, I'm curious to see who we play in the first round. Obviously, if we are 2 or 3 seed, we should win pretty convincingly. Especially getting out of this Big 12 rotation of playing all these elite teams, and whoever we play, obviously it's going to be a team that won their conference, maybe a smaller team, but they're still going to be a good team. But it should be a game that we should win, So I'm curious to see how we play teams that are out of conference. Whether it's Rick Pitino's Iona or if we play, I don't even know who's won their conference. I think I saw Hartford somewhere in there. If we can beat them or if we play them, so I'm curious to see who we get. We'll know tomorrow. But yeah, the right now Florida State's beating Georgia Tech 16-13 with 8 minutes left in the first half. My computer finally calmed down. It was screaming earlier. Yeah. Woo. Oh boy. It's been a while since I've done one of these live stream things. Well, Georgia Tech's coach is not happy about something. All right, now that my computer has calmed down, we are going to go through some of the games today. We go home, scores. Look at some of the scores. Let's see here. No, I don't want college basketball videos because I'm going to get this live stream taken down and I'm going to get in trouble with the YouTube police and get my channel destroyed because of a technicality. David, you like Texas? Yes, hook 'em. Big 12 champs 2021. I'm very happy. I'm trying to stay calm because like those last 5 minutes of the game, my heart was beating like 500 miles per hour. Like it felt like I was gonna explode or something. So I'm staying calm now. But I just hope we do get in the tournament. We haven't won a tournament game in 7 or 8 years. It's been way too long since we've won a tournament game. We haven't won one with Shaka yet. He's made a Final Four with VCU. So I'm hoping that we're going to be a high seed. We're going to be playing a lower opponent. But, even for that, I think we got to look to that game. We can't play down to our opponent. We have to play them as if they were Baylor. If we're playing Baylor again, we got to play them like the team they are, which is probably going to be a conference champion. So we got to play them like we would play any team. We got to play to blow them out, basically. I think that should be your objective every game, obviously, to try to blow them out. It's not going to happen every time, but you got to do your best, obviously, to try to win every single game as the best you can. But we haven't won a tournament game in 7 or 8 years. This group of guys on this team hasn't won a tournament game, so I think they got to be focused on winning a tournament game. I don't care who the opponent is. But after that first tournament game, if they can get it done, if they can get that win, then I think they can build some confidence and they can start, trying to do better. I don't know how to state it, but and once again, you can't overlook that first opponent. We've seen a 16 beat a 1 seed 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember how many years. And we've seen multiple upsets where a 15 seed has beat a 2 seed or a 14 has beat a 3 seed. So it's no lock. You're not guaranteed the victory if you're a 2 or a 3 seed. You're not guaranteed a blowout win. You're not guaranteed a win. So they got to play. They're going to have to play well. They can't slack off. They can't sleep through that game. They're still going to have to play no matter who they play. Let's see. Oh, Iowa lost. Um, I have nothing against Iowa other than that the poll has just absolutely loved them so much. Like, Iowa lost, I think, to like unranked Indiana at home by double digits, and they only dropped like one spot. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, I think they beat like, who did they beat? I think they beat someone good. They beat someone ranked, which is better than what Iowa did. And they like dropped 2 spots. And I was like, what the heck's up with that? It was like, what are you doing? It makes no sense to me. Like, Iowa's good, obviously, but they just don't get punished at all when they lose, and when they lose to teams they shouldn't lose to. Obviously when they get wins, and then when they get wins that is an upset when they beat a really good team, they jump up like 10 spots, and I'm like, come on, man, that's absurd. In my opinion, that's absurd. I think they're a really good team. They're currently in the top 5. They're still going to be a top seed, but for them to just the way they've been ranked this whole season, I mean, I think it's unfair. Obviously they've got some big wins. I think they beat Ohio State or something. They might have beaten Illinois in the regular season. I can't remember, but I think they've gotten so lucky with some of these top 25 poll voters have been very, very favorable to them, which I can't do anything about it, but Iowa's still a good team. I just think that they are a little bit overrated. I think they're still going to make it to the Sweet 16, got a shot at the Elite 8, but I do think they're a little bit overrated. I didn't watch the Michigan-Ohio State game. The Big Ten's the Big Ten's the second best conference in my opinion. But I really don't know about these two teams. Not that like I'm saying that I don't think they're good, but it's like it's so weird because like Ohio State they beat Michigan, they beat I think they beat Iowa, I think they beat Illinois. I don't know, but they've beaten some of these really good teams. But then like I think they lost to Minnesota or something at the beginning of the season, which is really random. And then like with Michigan, Ohio State had a skid at the end of the season, but Michigan's been good for the most part. I can't remember who they lost to, but I think they had one bad loss. I can't remember who it was to, but I think both those teams are really good and are going to make a pretty good run in this tournament. And heck, I'd say, Michigan, the way they were playing in the first half of their conference schedule, they looked like they could make a run at the title, but they're still a good team. They still got a shot, but I'm just not, I'm not saying I'm not sure in terms of them winning. I'm just not sure because I don't know enough about them. That's what I'm trying to say. Houston started off the year really well. I think they were like 16-1 or something. They beat Texas Tech pretty convincingly, and Texas Tech's a really good team, so that looks really good for Houston's resume. They're going to be a 2 or a 3 seed. If they win their conference, they'll be a 2 seed probably. If they lose, they'll still be a 3 or if at worst a 4 seed. But I think they can make a deep run. I think they're a good team. They haven't played in the Big 12, the ACC, the Big 10. They haven't had to play all these top teams, but they've still played good teams. They've still won games against good teams, and even in their non-conference, they beat Texas Tech, and I think that's a pretty solid win. Iowa's a one-sided team. All offense is their offense. If their offense struggles, they lose. That'll be interesting to see how they do because like some teams, they like Baylor's an example. I'm not saying that Baylor's going to lose, but they're like one of the highest shooting percentage teams in the country from 3-point line. I think they shot like 45% in the regular season. They haven't. I don't know about their shooting, but overall as a team, they haven't looked that hot ever since returning from COVID. They almost lost to Iowa State, who's an awful team. They lost to Kansas. Kansas is still good, but Baylor still looked bad in that game. They almost lost to West Virginia. Heck, they almost lost to Kansas State in the Big 12 tournament, who they beat by 40 points and dropped 100 on in the regular season, and then obviously lost to Oklahoma State. So Baylor just hasn't looked like themselves since that COVID quarantine. And I'm not concerned for them. I still think they're going to make a deep run. But if they have a bad shooting game, you never know. They could have a bad game and something could happen. But as for that Iowa thing, if you're an all-offensive team, it only takes one bad shooting day and you're out of the tournament. That's the thing that's so unique about the NCAA tournament. You look at the NBA playoffs. You've got 7 games. You can afford a bad game. You can have a 20% shooting night, but it's not the end of your season. You still got at most, you still got 6 other opportunities to do it if you need it, to win the series, to advance. The NCAA tournament, you got to play your best every single game. You can't really afford a bad game sometimes. Some of these top seeds, they'll be able to afford maybe a bad game in their first round because, let's be honest, even if they have a bad game, they're still going to win by a decent margin. But even after that, when the 1 seed plays the 8 seed, that 8 seed's still a good team. The 2-7, the 3-6, the 4-5, you're going to be playing really good teams after that first round if you're a top seed. So you can't really afford bad games after that. And if like you're saying, Robert, if you heavily rely on your offense and you're giving up a ton of points on defense and you have a bad night offensively, it could be costly. You're right about that. Ohio State lost both against Illinois. Michigan lost to Minnesota. The Big Ten just beats each other up. I mean, in basketball, what conference doesn't? It's so rare, especially in these bigger conferences like the Big Ten, like the Big 12, like the ACC, SEC. I mean, when do they not beat each other up? Michigan lost to Minnesota. Michigan lost to Ohio State. Or Michigan beat Ohio State in the regular season. Ohio State lost to Iowa. Iowa lost to someone else, Michigan, I guess. But, it's just so this rotating of who beats who. It's same thing in the Big 12. Texas Tech beats Texas. Texas beats Kansas. Kansas beats Baylor. Baylor beats Texas Tech. There's just circles and circles of who beats who because you play each other twice. And then sometimes in the tournaments you get to play them a third time. So it's just an ever-rotating... It's, I don't even know. Everyone beats everyone is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Let's see. But next up, yeah. Sorry. I was like, man, I thought we were on something. In terms of going down the line. But yeah, Georgetown, I mean, Creighton, I thought they were a decent team. Villanova got knocked out in the first round by Georgetown. I was like, wow. Villanova's kind of fallen off the second half of the season, but wow. And I thought that was just kind of like a fluke almost. But Georgetown, I mean, they weren't going to make the tournament if they didn't win their conference. And Patrick Ewing, he led them to a championship. He led them to the Big East Championship. Must win every single game. And they're going to the big tournament. They're not going to be a favorite. They're not going to be a 1 seed, a 2 seed, 3 seed. Heck, they won't be a 4, 5, 6, 7. But that's a big deal for them, and especially the teams they beat. The Big East always has good teams. Creighton, Georgetown's usually good. Villanova's won 2 national championships in the last 5 years. They're still beating good teams. It's not like they're beating a bunch of bad teams. So the Big East is still a pretty good conference, and they had to beat some really good teams in order to win. So well deserved for them. That's a big deal. That's a big deal for them. San Diego State. I don't know much about the Mountain West, but San Diego State top 25. Kawhi Leonard went there. Beats Utah State in the championship. Good for them. SEC. Yeah, the SEC. The SEC's been a little bit different this year. Alabama and Arkansas have been up top all year. And outside of that, they haven't been that good. They haven't had teams in the top 25. They haven't had these teams getting big wins against ranked opponents. But LSU making their first conference championship since 1993. That's a big deal for them. I'm not sure where they were on the bubble and stuff, but beating Arkansas, that should do it. That should put them in if they weren't in already. But that some of these teams that are already in, these conference tournaments are for seeding. Beating teams like Arkansas, that's going to boost your seeding. Even if LSU loses to Bama in the SEC championship, their seeding just went up a ton after beating Arkansas. The same thing with the Big 12, ACC. I mean, SEC. We just said that. Big 10. If you can beat some of these bigger ranked opponents in your conference championship, and you already knew you were going to make the tournament, that's a big deal. Big 12 is the best conference, only conference where everyone plays everybody, a true round robin. Yeah, I agree with that. And something that's I feel like isn't talked about enough is that you said everyone plays everyone, but everyone with COVID kind of messed it up, but everyone has to play everyone twice. Texas had to play Kansas twice. Kansas had to play Baylor twice. Baylor had to play Oklahoma State twice. And if COVID didn't screw that up, then everyone would have played everyone twice. Texas didn't get to play Baylor twice because of COVID. I don't know any other examples. I'm a Texas fan, so I only paid attention to Texas for the most part in terms of who they played and who they didn't play due to COVID. But I think that second Baylor game was the only game that they ended up getting canceled in conference play. But with Texas especially, I mean, as I was saying at the beginning of this thing, last year they were not guaranteed a spot in the tournament. They were on the bubble, and Shaka Smart's job wasn't secure. They were looking bad, and then they went on a little run at the end of the season before COVID. But coming into this year, there were a lot of question marks, and that win over North Carolina was a big deal. They go on, they beat Kansas by 25 on the road. That was a huge deal. Then to sweep Kansas, to beat some more ranked opponents in the conference like Oklahoma State, like Oklahoma, West Virginia on the road. It was a big deal for them, I think. And to end up with the 3 seed in the toughest conference in the regular season, I think that was a big deal. And to win the Big 12 championship with Shaka Smart, just his uncertainty prior to this year, that probably just got him another couple years to keep his job. And especially the players, what they've been through with this team, it's a big deal for them. It really is. And, they still haven't won a tournament game, which is something that they need to do, but you got to be happy for him. You got to be happy for Shaka Smart. I mean, this dude, he genuinely cares. He's a really good coach, in my opinion. And, I think he's going places. And I like to think that they can keep this thing alive. But this has been, as a Texas fan, this has been one of the most fun seasons I've had watching them play basketball. Because, they've had great players. They've had Miles Turner. They've had Jared Allen. They've had Mo Bamba. But they've never had a good team that's been able to do something. And I think this is the year that they can do something. They've already done something. They won the Big 12, which is a big deal. But, yeah, I think that's a big deal for them. I think that's a really big deal for them. Villanova's had tons of injuries that a lack of depth killed them. Interesting. SEC has been really disappointing outside of Alabama and Arkansas. The conference is very middling. Yeah, Tennessee, they kind of fell off. They blew out Kansas, but that was at a point where them and Kansas were kind of at lows. Then after that, after that game, both those teams went in opposite directions. Kansas went on to win a bunch of games. They beat Baylor. And then Tennessee just went downhill. They lost a bunch of games. They fell out of the top 25. And 18-8, 7 conference losses, 10-7 in the conference, losing the conference semis. I'm sure that's not how they wanted it to go. They should still make the tournament, I believe, but they went from having a potentially top seed to, they might struggle to win their first round game. And then as for Missouri, I remember they were top 25 in the Big 12 SEC matchup because TCU almost beat them, and I was like, wow. But thank you, ESPN, for giving me a notification about something I'm talking about. But yeah, Missouri, I didn't really pay attention to much, but they were in the top 25 for a bit. But after that, they kind of fell off. Best defense, best offense, all team. Which team is that, David? I don't know which team you're talking about there. Smart needed a big year with all of the returning. Yeah, that's something I didn't mention. So thank you for bringing that up, Robert. This has got to be the year that they make a run. They've made the tournament in the past, but they've been first round eliminations when they've had guys like, oh god, they didn't make it last or 2 years ago. They won the NIT 2 years ago, but the year before that, I think they made it, and they lost in the first round. I think that was that Jackson Hayes, Jackson Hayes or Mo Bamba. Someone lost in the first round of the tournament, and God, I'm brain farting. But that was a young team, you know. They weren't expected to do much. But this team, like, this is the year, if they're going to make a run, they got to make the run. You've got some mature veteran backcourt guys or some in guard play, I should say, with Courtney Ramey, Matt Coleman, and Andrew Jones. Either one of those guys could be the top scorer any night. Matt Coleman's an extremely efficient shooter. He's a great point guard in terms of passing the ball. Andrew Jones has been on fire this year. I mean, he had a bad game today, but he's had a great season. And then Courtney Ramey, he's been a little hot. Some games he's hot, some games he's not, but he's capable of having those games. And then you look at Jericho Sims. He's able to go up and get rebounds. You're able to lob it up to him. Kai Jones, the sixth man of the year in the Big 12. He's been great all season. Greg Brown, he's been kind of hit or miss. I kind of hope he does stay another year or two, just to kind of develop more, because, you know, he had his moments where he was really good this year, but he did have his moments where you could tell that he's still got some areas to improve on before he does go to the NBA. In my opinion, I think he's going to be a great player one day, but he definitely does have some areas that he needs to improve in. But this has got to be the year, and you're going to lose a lot of these guys after this year, and you're going to have to bring in young guys or guys who haven't played much next year in order to play, you know, to win. And so with all these seniors, with all these upperclassmen right now, I think you got to do it now. Matt Coleman's not going to be there next year. Andrew Jones, I think he's a senior. I think Ramey's a senior too. If not, they're juniors, but Coleman's going to be a big loss after this year. Sims is going to be a big loss. He's had a career year. He's been a major help to the team. But yeah, they're going to be losing a lot of guys this year. So this has got to be the year that they make a run. You know, I'm not saying that they got to go win it all, but it would be nice, obviously, if they won it all. But for them to go make a run, to go to the Elite Eight, Final Four, this has got to be the year. They can't mess around and get knocked out in the first or second round. This has got to be the year that they do something, and they're capable of it. I really do think that they're one of the best teams in the country. I think they're a top 10 team. I think they're very capable of making it to the Elite Eight. Heck, even the Final Four, if they were given the opportunity. But it's going to be a tough tournament. There's a lot of good teams in this tournament, and Texas is going to have to face them eventually. So I think that they're gonna have to play their best once they get there. They lost to Nevada in double. Oh, I remember that. Yep. I was on a plane back from somewhere on spring break when I got the final score. I was really upset because Nevada ended up making it to like the Elite Eight that year, I think. I was like, man, that could have been Texas, but they had to lose to Nevada. Texas won championships back to back next year. I mean, that's a little too far away to call. I mean, heck, I don't even know who we're playing in the first round of the tournament next week. So I think we got to focus on that. Texas has got to focus on that. I mean, there's too much to focus on this year right now to look ahead to next year. I was talking about the seniors and stuff, guys leaving, losing some of our best players, but I really do think we got to look at this year because it really is our best year. I hope Matt Coleman stays, says Jesse13. Even with that extra year due to COVID, it'll be interesting to see how much Donovan Williams progresses. Yeah, I forgot about him for a bit. He played some decent minutes at the beginning of conference play. I think he played in that Kansas game where we blew him out. He had a couple threes in that game. if I remember correctly. But I haven't seen him much the second half of the year. Definitely didn't see him in the Big 12 tournament. But even, I'm thinking of the games I watched. I didn't watch every game this season, but I watched a good amount. I watched both Kansas games. He played in the first one. I can't remember if he played the second. I think he played a little bit against Baylor. Man, I can't remember. He played in the first TCU game when we had him at home. But yeah, I don't know why, but he hasn't played much. Same with Royce Ham. Royce Ham didn't play much this year. They're showing highlights of Texas holding up the trophy. Sweet. Oh my. Cool. 30 points in Big 12 tournament championship game. Texas history. Kevin Durant, 2007, scored 37 points against Kansas and lost. Matt Coleman scored 30 against Oklahoma State and won. That's pretty cool. That's pretty dang cool if you ask me. He was able to score in that loss to Oklahoma. I think he should have had. Oh, yeah, he did play against Oklahoma because that was the game that we had all those guys out because of COVID. Ramey was out. I think Sims and Cunningham were there 3 guys out. And we only lost by 1. Like that, I've never walked out of a loss. So not happy, but oh my gosh. We're going to beat them next time. Now, when we beat them in Norman, we should have beat them by more. Only beating them by 4 points. That was a bit concerning, but that first game, I forgot that we had all those guys missing and we only lost by 1. And heck, the guys that played didn't even play their best, if I remember correctly. So that was a big deal. That was a really big deal. I remember that. I remember that game. They were really close. Man. God. Dang it. But that game, it was good to beat them in Norman. It was good to beat them in Norman. But man. All right. Let's see here. Pac-12. Is that the championship tonight? Pac-12 tournament final. Yep. So Colorado is going to make it regardless, it looks like. So it could, looking at their record, obviously I haven't paid much attention to the Pac-12, but it looks like that's going to be a must-win for Oregon State. They're going to have to win that game to make the big tournament. Colorado's going to make it regardless. Huh. I might have to watch that later on. That starts here in, oh gosh, my clock's wrong. Here in an hour about. So, but yeah, some other teams I wanted to talk about that are going to make the tournament. They're not going to be a high seed, but North Carolina, they last year they were going to miss the tournament because they had an awful year last year. But this year they were better than last year for sure. They're going to make the tournament this year. But if they're an 8 seed or like a 7 seed, and they get put up against a 1 or a 2 seed in the second round, I think that could be an upset. You got one of the greatest coaches of all time, obviously, with Roy Williams. North Carolina, it's North Carolina. You got talented players there. That could be an upset in the making in the second round if they're a 7 or 8 seed and they end up winning their first round game and get to play a 1 or a 2 in the first or in the second round. So I think that could be fun. I think they're one of the middle seeds that could potentially make a run at a Sweet 16 or Elite 8. I don't think they have a chance at winning it all, but if they were given the opportunity, I think they could make a run. Do you think Shaka Smart starts Jones over Brown again? Yeah, once again, with Greg Brown, he's a super athletic player, but I think in terms of basketball playing, I think he has a ton of areas to improve on. One play that stuck out to me in the Tech game was the first possession of the second half. He got a steal, and he tried to do a lot at once. He tried to dribble between his legs, around his back, like all at once when he had 3 guys around him, when he should have just picked up the ball, waited for a guard, and waited for it to clear out. I understand trying to push and make a fast break, trying to get a 3-on-1 or something, but when you got 3 guys around you and you're at midcourt, there's no point of trying to push the issue. Just take the possession, take your time. Once again, he's an extremely athletic player, but in terms of basketball, I do think he has some areas he needs to improve on. Just thinking, using his head on certain plays. So I think that was a good move because Kai Jones has been playing out of his mind the past couple of weeks and all season, really. I mean, sixth man of the year in the Big 12. But I think that was a good move. I do. And I wouldn't be surprised if it continued going forward. Greg Brown, I think he should stay a year or two extra to improve his basketball IQ, his basketball ability. No one's questioning his athleticism. The dude is athletic. He can dunk on you. He can jump up there and get you some rebounds. He can run. He can do everything. But in terms of basketball, I think he should stay just to get some more knowledge there. But as for Kai Jones, yeah, I really am looking forward to see how he does in the tournament because he really can do everything. He just like Brown, he's a super athletic player. He can go up there and get rebounds. He can dunk on people, and he can also shoot the ball pretty well. I mean, he made a couple of threes in that Tech game. He made a three tonight. I mean, he's a really good player. He's improved his his draft stock tremendously in the past couple of weeks. I mean, seriously, he's an incredible player. I hope he does something in this tournament. I think he could be special, but I mean, I could say that about every player on this team in the tournament. But yeah, North Carolina against Baylor, potentially in the second round would be awesome, dude. I would love to see North Carolina beat Baylor in the second round. I think that would be hilarious, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of Baylor. I don't like Baylor. Seeing them just absolutely dominate all season and then just kind of fall off the last few games. You know, they didn't lose. They lost 2 games, and they were to 2 really good teams. But they had a couple close calls against teams that they should have destroyed. They almost lost to Iowa State at home. Iowa State didn't win a conference game. That might have been their best opportunity against Baylor. They almost lost to Kansas State, who both times in the regular season, Baylor demolished and dropped 100 points on. So I think that would be hilarious to see Baylor just destroy everyone in the Big 12 conference play just to lose in like the second round of the big tournament. I think that would be hilarious. And if it was North Carolina, I think that would be even funnier, you know, considering Texas beat them and all. That is something that has made me so mad. Texas had an opportunity to beat Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky in the same season, but Kentucky last minute got COVID, and Texas didn't get to play them. That was disappointing. That was upsetting. Yeah. And then Texas ended up sweeping Kansas, so I guess that kind of made up for it. But that would have been so cool to say that we beat North Carolina, Kansas, and Kentucky in the same season, but it's unfortunate. But I guess it was cool to be the first team in 16 years to sweep Kansas. Almost got the opportunity to become the first team in history to beat Kansas 3 times in a season. I guess technically that's still possible in the tournament, but who knows? Kai Jones does everything solidly. I agree. Great player. The team is deep. Yes, I agree. I mean, in terms of scoring, any of the starters, I think, could be the leading scorer. Coleman, Jones, Ramey, Sims, now Kai Jones. I think any of those guys could go out any night and be the lead scorer. Off the bench, I mean, Greg Brown, when he's at his best, I mean, he's capable. We saw him in that first time we played Oklahoma State back in January, I think, or December. He had 25, 30 points and 15 rebounds. When he's at his best, he could be the leading scorer. Jace Febris, just the other night against Texas Tech, he was hitting threes like there was no tomorrow. I mean, it's like someone told him, look, man, you're never shooting a 3 again in your life. Shoot tonight like it's the last night you're shooting. He did that. He hit, 6 threes that night? I mean, that was insane. So the depth of this team is something, you know, especially in basketball that I appreciate is, you know, in the NBA we see all these super teams. We see Harden, Durant, Kyrie, LeBron, Anthony Davis. But some of those teams, they don't have depth, and it hurts them if all their big guys have bad nights. But a solid team, when they have depth, I think that's tremendous help because what if, you know, Courtney Ramey, the other night, perfect example, what's today? Saturday? Thursday night, Courtney Ramey was having an awful day, went 0 for 7 shooting or something, couldn't make a three-pointer, but off the bench, Jace Febris comes in, hits 5 or 6 threes, We win by 1 point. So having that depth, having that extra guy on the bench who could make those shots when Courtney Ramey wasn't making those shots was huge. And, it kind of saved Texas there because they ended up winning that game in a close one, and they ended up winning the Big 12 tournament a couple days later. So, I think having depth is really important. That's just an example of it. It's exciting. I'd like to see Feber start over Ramey in the first round just to see how it goes. Ramey's had such a good year. He's had games where he's been hot, like that Kansas game. But then he's had games like tonight and the other night that he's been not. And I feel like he's one of those players that, confidence is his thing. I feel like if Shaka benched him, that would kind of hurt his confidence. Like, even if it was for a good reason, like, just to see how he does with that second unit or something. But I don't think they should do that. I think they should continue to do, unless he has, like, another horrible game and, like, it has to be done or something. Like with Brown, they kind of had to do something. He had been struggling. He had that kind of meltdown against Tech, so that kind of had to be done. But I don't see any reason to bench Ramey right now. Or when someone gets, that's another great example. And that's something I was frustrated with the Texas OSU game today. Cade Cunningham had 3 fouls in the second half. The whole second half, and he didn't get another one. What is Texas doing? Like, Shaka Smart's got to be telling them, you see number 2 go straight at him. There were 2 or 3 fast breaks where he was the only one under the basket, and we had 3 guys. But one of them, Andrew Jones, settled for like a floater. Another one, they pulled the ball out and ran a play. I'm like, dude, I don't care if you miss a layup and don't get a foul. Go at the guy who's scoring the most points on us and is going to score the most points on us the rest of the game. Go straight at him, draw a foul, and if you don't draw the foul, well, darn. Okay, at least you tried. But you got to go at him because he's either going to contest you and potentially foul you, or he's going to let you score. There's no losing there. So I think they should have done a better job at that. I really do. I think they should have done something like that. So if you have that situation in the future, like if we play, if we play someone good and they have someone going off making all these shots, but they have 3 fouls in the second half, we got to go at them. We got to get our best player who's currently hot. Like tonight, it would have been Matt Coleman. Get a switch, get something to where Matt Coleman's got that guy at him, go straight to the basket and draw a foul or something like that. I feel like his attitude would hurt the team if he's benched and could cause issues during our tournament run. Yeah, that's my thing. He's a good player. He's done a lot for the team this year. I appreciate it tremendously. But, benching him, I just feel like wouldn't be a good move. And I also feel like it would kill his confidence, and we need that guy to have confidence. Because, he is a good player. They ran through Sims a lot through the low post. The shot selection was pretty good. That's a problem they've had this year. And heck, in years past, is that they haven't been a shooting team in the past, and they've settled for threes. But this year, they look for the best opportunities. They move the ball around more. They're selfless. They won't take a stupid three. They'll throw it inside to Sims if he's got a good matchup. They'll throw it to Jones if he's got a good matchup. So I think that's something that's been really impressive with this team, is that they're actually playing as a team, as I said earlier, but that they're looking for the best opportunities to score. If someone's hot, they're not throwing up a 30-foot three. If someone's hot, they're not calling everyone off to do a one-on-one play. So I think that's something that's impressive, something that's important. Yeah, that's another thing. Sims was doing a great job today not fouling. Sometimes he gets in foul trouble and it costs Texas. But today he didn't get in foul trouble. He played, heck, I want to say he played at the end when they were doing all that flip-flopping on the free throws, he probably played 35 minutes, I would say. He played the majority of the game, which is great. But fouls are a big thing. I guess I should probably should order a shirt or a hat. Maybe a hat. I don't know. Might be a shirt. I don't know. I'm going to get something though. Big 12 champions. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. First time ever. I mean, especially with the season we've had. I mean, sweeping Kansas, beating them by a record in Lawrence, coming into this Big 12 tournament. You know, we had that slow streak in the middle where we weren't as hot. We were losing games that we should have won and that stuff. But at the end, we've been hot. We're on a 4 or 5 game win streak right now, and 3 of those are against top 25 opponents. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State was hot coming into this game. They had won 3 or 4 straight. They'd beaten West Virginia twice. They'd beaten Baylor, who's one of the best teams in the country. So they were hot coming into this game, and to beat them, that is something. Oh, man, love it when Kansas fans are talking trash on the internet. That's funny. I mean, look, like if we got swept by them in the regular season, heck, even if we split, you know, I would have been a little more upset that we didn't play them, or I would have been a little bit more like, yeah, you can make the argument that was kind of that was bogus, and you know we wouldn't have a full claim, but we swept them in the regular season. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we would have destroyed them in the Big 12 tournament. I think it would have been a great game, but you know, it's not like they were the better team. They were convincingly the better team. Kansas. You know, we were still good. We were better than them this season. We beat them twice. We destroyed them in Lawrence. We beat them in close one in Austin, but we beat them. We beat them. There's no questions. Yeah, that first Tech game, that's obviously frustrating, but that's still a really good team. I mean, you can't do anything about it. And then the Lubbock game, it's tough to win in Lubbock. It's really tough to win in Lubbock. There's no questions about that. I mean, they've been so good the past few years with Chris Beard. They made that national championship run where they lost to Virginia, but you know that's a good program right now. They're hot. It's difficult to beat them no matter where you are, but to beat them in Lubbock, that's something that's extremely difficult. So I'm just happy we beat them once this year when we got the opportunity. But one game I am upset about this year, I would say, is the West Virginia home game. We were up by 18 in the second half, and I think we lost by 2. We should have won that game. We should have swept them. But they should have beaten us in Morgantown, so I guess, you know, the roles reversed. I think they were up 6 or 7 with about 30 seconds left, and they gave up a few threes to us. But, yeah. Kansas has been inconsistent all year. They won some close games where they didn't play good. Yeah. I think they swept Tech. They split with OU. They split with Baylor. And then they split with OSU, I think. And then they almost lost. The first half against Iowa State, I think they did really bad, but they ended up coming back and winning by 15. But yeah. Let's see here. How long have we been going on? 58 minutes. All right. I'm going to call that a day. I've had fun talking about college basketball, Big 12, Texas winning the Big 12. I'm super happy about it. I'm thrilled. I mean, first time in history that we've won the Big 12. I think we won a couple of Southwest Conference, but to win the Big 12 is a big deal. Another thing I was going to say, I might do live streams during March Madness, like during games and stuff. Might pull up the scoreboard like this, watch a game or something on my TV, pull up a game on my iPad or something. But, yeah, I enjoyed this. I hope you guys had a great time talking about the games with me. I really did enjoy it. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Leave a like on the stream if you liked it, obviously. I think we had a couple likes. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Yeah, that'd be cool. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of these conference tournaments. And I'll be here tomorrow to talk about the race with you at Phoenix. Before I mention that, I want to say my pick is Brad Keselowski.